This podcast is not suitable for children or those who are easily disturbed. Spoiler warning for whatever is in the title of this episode.
I was just reading a scary book.
Oh my god, this is terrible. When did they get to killing the children?
This is literature? A 2-year-old could have written this.
We will be requiring a bedtime story.
Oh, I don't like this book. This is going on forever.
Oh, I just wanted to see kids fight to the death is all.
Look at me! I'm enjoying reading!
Welcome to episode 151 of the Horror of Babylon, where we are discussing The Dark Tower, Book 7, The Dark Tower by Stephen King. I am Ryan, and with me as always is Daniel. Say hi, Daniel.
Hi, Daniel.
And Hef's here too, by remote.
Cause a fucking
Waffle
wheel.
Ka is an absolute wheel. He told us from the beginning.
He did. I'm so fucking pissed.
We should have all known. No excuse.
The whole time I got to the end of this book, and let me tell you, I'm just sitting here being like, he told us every goddamn thing that was going to happen before the end of it.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he absolutely did. He has the gift of foresight, just like the smartest people in the world, our patrons. Thank you to Logan, Full Metal patron, and Sierra, the 6th, the Keyblade patron. Have to do the sound. God, that's
more lightsaber, right?
That's, yeah. Thank you to Four Horsemen Comics and Gaming, which you can visit at the Morgantown Mall in Morgantown, West Virginia, the Mall at Robinson in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. You can shop online at fourhorsemen.tcgplayerpro.com. And if you make it into the store, say hello to Ronald III, Grampus of Christmas, who is offering a very special discount to breakers who serve the Crimson King. Come in and show the brains of a child from the town of Kala that you consume, and you'll get 19% off of your next order for Horseman Comics.
That's a lot of money off of comics. For a child.
All right, speaking of murdering a child, trigger warning: violence on children, violence on animals, car accidents, spiders, child birthing related things, typical Stephen King racism,
Meta.
Like general violence, but if you have a thing about eyes, Stephen King really describes how eyes get torn apart in this book.
Yeah,
some people are weird about eyes, and
the guy with the crow,
and Flag.
And Flag, yeah. There's some people who can't stand. Have you ever touched your eyeball to freak someone out?
I can't because it freaks me out.
Okay. Oh, really?
It freaks me out when my eye gets touched. It's not like in general.
Well, I won't touch your eyeball.
But that's why I can't do contacts. I can't touch my eye.
Yeah. But when Hef started wearing contacts as a senior, there were times when us and some other friends had to literally put him to the floor.
Yeah. That was a rough time.
Like times in the book, and I'm like, he was really going ham on these eyes.
Yeah. Wonder if he went back. Is there like one part of the body that he like does in each book?
Yeah, I might start keeping when we do more Stephen King books. I'm gonna start paying more attention to the violence of his books.
Yeah, maybe he's like, I'm gonna like fuck up people's legs in this book, and in this book I'm gonna fuck up people's penises.
Yeah. He does do a lot of weird sections books.
Yeah, so. He does.
Anyway, sorry. Okay. That's the only other trigger warning I can think of.
So this was my pick, and honestly, I kind of picked it just because
so we can finish it.
Yes, we can finish. Not that I didn't want to read it. I did. I will admit that I had very low expectations going into this book, and I kind of expected to be pissed going into it. That was not my experience, but we'll get into that. Okay, so and for my history with this book, I have no history with this book, but I also want to tack on like expectations. What I thought, because this book has a very infamous ending that Daniel has known the whole time, and I knew it was going to be a significant ending because typically I would have assumed that Daniel would have forgotten it, but he hasn't. He's remembered it all these years, so I knew it had significance. and the ending that I thought this book would have was that it was going to, like, Roland would get to the tower, and then it would zoom out, and it's like Stephen King writing his story, and then Stephen King would close the book, and the book would end. That's the ending I expected. Hef, what about you? What's your history with this book / your expectations for this book?
History is, same as you guys, just following along with the book. My expectations were not too dissimilar from yours. Like, I wasn't really... I guess I didn't have a lot of expectations going into it because I've mentioned a couple times before that, like, my opinions on this series as a whole has been kind of 50-50. Like, there's portions of it I really enjoy, and then there's other portions I really don't. So, going into this one, I was kind of going in expecting... I actually went in expecting not to like it. Which actually helped, because I got more out of it than what I thought I was going to get out of it.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and say I like this book a lot. It's not my favorite. I think Wolves of Kala is still, like, the de facto best one.
Oh, absolutely. Same.
But I like this book a lot more than I thought I would.
My feelings on it are very schizophrenic. I went from hating it to going, oh, this is pretty good, to hating it again. And I both did. The ending was pretty much what was described to me, but not exactly.
Okay, so
I got to be a little. There's one thing a person goes, well, this is the ending, and then it's, well, how was it actually written?
So
like how it was written.
We'll let you speak to that, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, so background. This is book 7 of
the Roses
of the Dark Tower series. I've got the original cover here, which Hef can Google if he wants. It's by Stephen King. It was published on September 21st, 2004. Stephen King couldn't have gotten this published on the 19th of a month.
Yeah.
Or what about, like, on 9th of January?
Yeah.
Or a book date. Oh, wait, was that a date in the book? 9/21? No, because it was in, like, the car accident was in, like, June or July, right? Okay. This gets 4 cycles: reproduction, revelation, redemption, and resumption, which I think are mostly self-explanatory.
You should have added repeat.
I think that's what resumption is. The series was chiefly inspired by the poem "Child Rolled to the Dark Tower Came" by Robert Browning, which the entire text of that poem is published at the end of this book. We've all now read that poem, correct?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see the poem?
I did read the poem.
Okay, good. I
didn't like it.
Poetry's hard for me.
Yeah.
Yes.
I like short poems. Give me a haiku.
I like haikus. Yeah.
Like, if I can't read a poem in like 20 seconds, I'm done.
So it's not so much that I didn't like it, it's just I find them hard to appreciate.
Yeah.
But I've also never been, like, educated on them, so it's fine. In the preface to the revised 2003 edition of The Gunslinger, Stephen King identifies the Lord of the Rings, Arthurian legend, and the good and the bad and ugly as inspiration for the series. And specifically, he says that Clint Eastwood's Man with No Name character was the major inspiration for Roland Deschain.
I have a lot to say on the Lord of the Ring connections now that I'm reading Lord of the Rings.
Yay! King's style of location name in the series, such as Midworld, and his development of a unique language, high speech, are also influenced by Tolkien's work. High speech is nowhere near the same thing.
It's not Elvish.
No.
Tolkien was a linguist.
Yeah, it's more like high speech is more like a way of speaking.
Yeah, it's more like I want to pretend like I created my own language, but not put it to the actual work.
Yeah. Tolkien started. I just finished a biography of Tolkien because I'm getting prepped. I'm getting ready.
Ready.
I have no doubt in my mind.
But he started making up his own languages in elementary school.
Yeah. One of my favorite Ryan quotes is about Tolkien, and it's not fair that he was so good at all this different stuff.
Yeah,
like he could have picked one thing.
I believe they call that a savant.
Well, I read a biography, and he was actually like really bad at being in the army, and it made me feel better.
I mean, if you're gonna be bad at something, I guess killing people.
Yeah.
Oh, that's bullshit. Come on, don't tell me he's a good. I'm the only thing I'm bad.
He was in charge of signaling. He wasn't a combatant.
Was he friends with Ian Fleming, or am I thinking he's someone else?
Maybe, but I don't know.
Okay. One of these classical writers was friends with Ian Fleming around World War I or II, and I need to remember. I'll look it up before we get there. I'm getting excited.
Okay, and the final thing I have on the background is on Stephen King website, the Dark Towers series is cited as his magnum opus. So, jumping into structuring things, the first thing I want to speak to, and we're mostly pretty well read on Stephen King among us. We haven't read everything, but we've read a pretty
lot, yeah. I'd say more than the average person.
Yeah, and now all three of us have read the Dark Tower in its entirety. Is this his magnum opus? And maybe we should define magnum opus.
Doesn't this mean like their best work or their?
Well, that's why I'm saying maybe I'll look up. Like
let's look up
a large and important work of art, music, or literature, especially one regarded as the most important work of an artist or writer.
If I was gonna say his most important work, I would say it is. I think that's the one that's the most culturally relevant and the one that has influenced the most things.
I think I would tend to agree. I think it's definitely his most ambitious work.
Yeah. Now I think this one, when I'm reading these books, the Dark Tower series, I do get the feeling that it's the most important to King. But I don't know if it's the most important or the best thing that he has produced, or the thing that has impacted the most people, or like I said, the zeitgeist the most. I would say that that's probably it. But I think that
a lot of people may argue the Stain.
A lot of, like, especially his horror works are just in the public zeitgeist more. They've affected culture more. But I don't know. I wouldn't die on this hill.
Jericho.
Yeah.
F.
Yeah, I think that's subjective. I think it's defining what your most important work is so. It's so subjective to who you're asking the question to, because I know a little bit about King in that I know he does consider this like his greatest work, but I also know that he considers his favorite book he ever wrote was Lisey's Story,
which sucked.
Which is but that one's about like him. It's about his wife, right? I believe. Like it's supposed to be like
he wrote it for his wife, but it's not about his wife.
But it's supposed to be like similar to what she's had to deal with him as being a writer, correct?
Are you serious? I haven't read it.
I think that's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be like a love letter to his wife.
Yeah.
For putting up with me. And then my alcoholism.
I'd say let's just do it, but I don't want to read it again.
Yeah. I'll read it on my time.
Okay.
Yeah, but if you were to ask me specifically, like what his magnum opus is, I mean, I wouldn't say it's these. I mean, they're lengthy. I'll give them they're lengthy, but
the length.
I got the girth.
And I do get the feeling that this was the most important work to him.
For him, well, yeah. When you self-insert yourself into your own work, that's got to be pretty high.
Yeah.
Well, I'll go ahead and say that I was a little more forgiving of that in this book because I saw it as him trying to process almost dying.
That makes me less forgiving.
Oh, I don't really have an opinion on like in this book. I
like just have the balance here.
I mean, I think they just walked away from it a little bit, which I mean, I think that's fine. It's less on the nose than it is in the other books.
I think that the way I read it is like he wrote the other book, and then Tabitha read it, and then she's like, "You need to ease back on this, Steve. This is some bullshit."
I got the feeling that he was trying to walk back a lot of that in this book, but he kept calling it Shelley was walking it back, and I was like, "Okay, you can stop calling it." Because we'll be like, oh, he's not really God. And they say it like 7 or 8 times in a single chapter. And then they go, oh, what if he is?
And Roland encountered a couple different people Inky Stoner that had read his books and said he was a crappy writer.
Yeah, that was funny.
Yeah, I do agree. Just to finalize my thought on the magnum opus thing, I do agree. I think that it is probably the superior work as far as like people who would read it. Like, I think it does a better job of shocking you when you're supposed to be shocked, trying to grab you into these fears that are more relevant to you. Whereas this book feels more like... I would almost say that these books, to me, feel like it's him... This feels like his autobiography, if that makes any sense.
A very fantastical version, but I can see it. Like, he's like...
Like, this is... Like, all of these things, like, up to... Like, all the books, to a degree, seem like his process of evolving his story. He's like, you can see the influence of every story he's ever written in these books. So in a sense, it is a fantastical version, but Stephen King's also kind of a fantastical guy. So I feel like there's a world where you can look at this and see this as these were his roots, this is what inspired him, and then as he went through the books, he was telling us more about what inspired him to do all these other things in a more fantastical manner.
Okay. I think it's time to talk about the ending, because I don't think we're just going to ignore the element.
Yeah.
So, Daniel, why don't you tell us your story and
Okay, so my sister complained that basically how she described it is the books just start over. Mm-hmm. At the time she didn't use the term time loop, mm-hmm. but she's like, the books start over, like there's a hard reset.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of different ways you can do that. And there's so in my head it was just like it's a solid wheel that it's never-ending infinity kind of thing.
Which it's not.
Which it's not. Which would have also been fine. I think that would have been more horrific. Like if you wanted to write
because there's no hope.
If you wanted to write the downerest of endings,
yeah,
that's the way to do it. And I thought that's what he was doing at first. I was like, Stephen King. Like I was ready to go. Stephen King has balls. I still think it's kind of ambitious after finally getting to it, because I was like, because the lead up to it, I kind of wish I didn't know, because he's like finding all these artifacts. Like, why the fuck is my pinky here? And
yeah,
why the bullet? And because you've been here before.
Mm-hmm.
And but the way he leads up to it is very good, and I very much enjoyed it. And then once you get there in the time, he brings these things up, but these are like the more modern examples that I'm used to is like fucking Higurashi. When the time loop happens, people get a little bit more information, and it alters who dies, and it changes the course just a little bit each time until you get your good ending.
So just keep at it, Roland.
Yeah, just a guy do again. You have a horn now.
He has the horn of Gondor.
Yeah.
He's got Boromir's horn.
You can call for backup.
Yeah. Aragorn! Come save me!
I didn't even think about it at the time when I was reading it, but there was like 3 or 4 times throughout the book where he kind of just went, man, I wish I had that horn right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
now he has it.
Now he has it.
Yeah.
But I did honestly think that Stephen King was going to do the downerest of endings, and I was like, holy shit. I do think that might have been thematically appropriate with how they talk about Ka being a wheel.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was also like, oh, well, at least he has a chance. I can't even be too mad.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I think it's one of my favorite book endings. I thought it was hilarious. I laughed out loud, and I think I screamed, fuck you, Roland.
It is kind of, and he was horrified too, when he realized.
Yep. No, please, anything but that.
And so I do think it's one thing to have an ending described to you versus how it is being written.
I was like, this is your karma for dropping Jake off that cliff.
Yeah. And the tower didn't give a fuck. It was like, yeah, no, this is what you wanted.
He did, because he didn't even have to go in the tower.
Yeah.
As soon as they just destroyed the breakers, like the tower was saved.
And the Crimson King, what was he?
He was stuck there. Yeah. He's like, you don't have to do any of this.
Yeah.
So whatever happens now, Roland, it's on you.
Yeah.
If Susanna knew that, she's like, fuck this shit, I'm out. All right, sorry, Hef, the ending, your thoughts?
I also laughed, but for a very different reason. when it happened, my first thought was no. When the time loop is revealed, my first thought was two things. One, I laughed because I'm like, I bet Daniel fucking loves this. Because it felt very, it was so meta of an ending to me, because he tells you at the very final point when you get to Susanna and she's got all the happy ending, he tells you, you want to stay happy? Don't read further. Just leave it alone. And just like Roland, we're punished for our curiosity.
Pandora's box, baby.
So, yeah, we as the readers got punished for wanting to see what the tower held.
I mean, like, do you think realistically anyone stopped reading at that point?
No, but I really want to meet the person who did.
Oh, what happened? Oh, don't tell me. I stopped reading.
I can't. I want this. I want somewhere somebody read this as a series of Bible stories, and then when God said, "Don't read past the end of the book," they were just like, "Oh yes, Holy One, I will not read further. I must stay true to my path."
Thou shalt not complete the Dark Tower.
Thou shalt not see what is within the tower. Thou shalt not take the fruit.
It is sort of funny to bring up the Bible, because that whole idea of a time loop is very like Buddha-esque in the sense of the karmic world. So.
Also, that being said, like for the first few days after the book, I was so mad.
Yeah.
I was very conflicted on the ending at first, and then after a few days, I sat with it. I'm like, actually, no, that matches the themes. It's fine.
Yeah, I was really relieved because it was so much better than I imagined that it was. And
same.
Over the books, like I've come to like Roland. Like originally, like he is a dick. He's a total dick. Actually, so maybe let's jump into characters.
Yeah.
And let's start with the ka-tet of the 19 and 99, and we'll begin with Roland Deschain of Gilead. And I will say that I have grown to be attached to all of the members of the ka-tet of the 19 and 99 somewhat, but it's still like Roland has done enough ill to his tet members and to other people that it still tickles me a little just to see him get his just desserts. And
you got to think he was probably even worse on some of the previous loops.
Oh yeah, this is like him growing.
Yeah.
And in his defense, like there is legitimate character growth between the man we meet in the gunslinger and the man at the not the exact end of this book.
Yeah. And that's what I was imagining. I was like, I wonder what he was like the first time through. And
he shot Jake in the head as soon as he met him.
Yeah, he just got scared. He just like reacted. Their first bang. Whoops. Kicks the kid. Yeah. Sorry.
Stephen King's Ring Right was actually the second trip past the Dark Tower.
When he went to Earth and he had sugar for the first time, he just ended up like Bender when Bender became a human. Just morbidly obese eating sugar.
Woo!
Just put a loofah on the end of a stick. Other thoughts on Roland? Both in this book and overall.
I don't have too much. Because I just feel like I've said a lot about Roland as we've progressed. No. Yeah. And I think he does have. He certainly has a lot of growth. To the point where there are some times where it almost doesn't even feel like the same character. First book. Mm-hmm. But honestly, from the first to the second book, it didn't even feel like the same character to me.
Well, he was trying to walk back.
Because he tried to walk. So I got the walk back like 5 books ago.
Emma watched the movie with me,
yeah,
and she liked it, and we're talking about the books, and I'm like, well, I don't think you'll like the first book. If you might like 2 through 7.
Yeah, if you get through the first book,
mean, I like the Gunslinger, but it's very different.
It is very different.
Hef Roland.
He got laid in the most unusual way that I thought any Stephen King character has ever gotten laid. In this one specifically.
I like this old lady.
That was so funny. That whole road trip. I'm just like, is he gonna fuck her? Is he gonna fuck her? And he did.
Ass, grass, or gas. And Roland gave up his ass.
Yep.
He's like, well, I have to give her something.
Because he did it because he knew he could sense she wanted it.
That was just so. It was so funny to me. Like, just the whole thing. I was like, what an unremarkable way to get laid at the final book. I love it.
We've all been there, am I right?
I mean, I'm all for it. I'm 100% for it. It's just, it was so funny. This book made me laugh at a lot of points that I did not expect to laugh at. And Roland was at the ass end of every single one of them. And in a way, that kind of made him, I think, this, to me, because we've come to the ultimate point here, like, this is the most endearing I think Roland is in the book. Like, we've finally gotten to the point where he's, I don't know, he's he's finally a person you want to root for, and then when you finally get to your final destination of him, you're just kind of like, oh, well, shit. I forgot he kind of sucked, too.
Yeah, in these latter books, we've spent a lot of time with Eddie and Susanna and Jake and Callahan to some extent. The latter part of this book kind of gets back to the Gunslinger and the early parts of the drawing of the three, and to some extent the Wastelands, where it's really Roland's story.
You know what it kind of reminds me of, and it makes sense that it's a Stephen King book. Roland kind of just reminds me of a drug addict that's been clean for a while.
Yeah.
But then he gets close to what he wants, and he's like,
I mean, he's a tower junkie.
Yeah. He's
Towerhead.
Like, you know what? Maybe I can betray everyone I love for just a little bit of this.
Yeah, just a little bit of this sweet black rod.
I sure hope I don't get back in time for Infinity.
Shit!
Oh, damn. A cut to Roland gets sent back in time for Infinity.
Well, next time, he'll also have Koontz slingshot.
Yeah.
And then the time after that, I'm not sure. But he'll have something else.
He'll have a note that says, don't drop Jake.
Yeah.
It's just a note.
Eventually, he'll get there.
Yeah.
Keep
it.
Do you have the outline up, F?
No, but I can.
No, it's fine, because I rearranged.
He rearranged some names.
We're gonna talk about the rest of the members of the ka-tet in the order of the conclusion of their story.
Oh, sure.
Spoilers, in the order they get fucked.
Or not. Well, I guess just one of them. But,
yeah.
All right, so first we're gonna talk about Donald Callahan of Salem's Lot and the Roads. And before we get into all of these, I will say this is another way that this book kind of defied my expectations, because I expected either Jake to be the only one who walks away, or maybe Jake and Roland, or possibly all of them dying. I would never have guessed that Roland and Susanna, or kind of just Susanna, are the only ones to survive this book. But regardless, let's start with Donald Callahan and his ultimate demise. Hef, why don't you kick us off?
What a fucking way to start it. Like, holy shit. Like, as far as continuations of books are concerned, like, if you're talking about like a high way to start it out, this might be one of the best I've ever read.
I agree.
Like his definitive ending, like last gunfight shootout, is just, it's perfect. It's so perfect. Like it's damn near my king.
Let's start the book off with a redemption death.
I thought that at the end of Song of Susanna, Callahan and Jake, like, preparing to go to the deaths and like locking each other up, I thought that was one of the best parts of that book. And then just to get thrown into that fight and Callahan to go down in such an awesome way. Not quite as good as the girl from the sand.
Yeah.
Oh, Dana.
But close to that. Yeah, but close to that.
Yeah, it's pretty close to that. But yeah, that was just. I mean, that was just a good way to start it out. And I mean, I don't really.
There's not a lot of character building for him because we got all the character building in the previous.
Yeah, no, we get the payoff for like right at the start.
You get the payoff in like the opening chapters. So
It is. So part of me was slightly disappointed that I was like, okay, so the whole ka-tet is not going to the Dark Tower. But I think I knew like that's probably never going to happen. In my head, I was thinking like they're all going to get killed at the tower, but it was just like such a perfect death for Callahan, and it wasn't even like sad necessarily. Like, sure, it's sad he died, but that's the way he should die. Like,
no, Ryan, he's been dead for a long time. He finally got to live again.
Yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
But after that conversation with Barlow in Mark Petrie's kitchen,
Yeah.
this is the perfect way for him to finish.
Oh, see, that's what makes it so good. Like, because having read Salem's Lot makes that so much more of an arc. It's so good.
He was like, I'm not just gonna be a book character today.
Nope. Nope. Okay. All right, so let's go next to Eddie Dean of New York. Daniel?
I was expecting him to say like a one-liner after he got shot in the face. Like, did he miss? Or ouch or something. Instead, it was just, I think he said Suze and then fell to the ground.
Yeah. Call it, what's he call it? Aston or?
Aston.
Aston.
Suze, could you ask Roland for an Aston? I've got a headache.
Yeah, so, like, I was expecting it to, but like Stephen King played it straight and serious, but I was expecting like a one-liner. I was also expecting him to just drop down and he was just gonna be dead. Because he just got shot in the face with probably a high caliber gun.
Yeah.
You can live from that, it's just kind of rare.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Eddie's death was very sad, but it wasn't as shocking and as sad as other deaths that we will talk about. I think partially because no part of me thought Eddie would survive this book.
I thought he would be the first to die. I was like, well, other than Callahan, like,
Yeah.
of the core group, I'm like, he's the one you kill first.
I thought he was the logical choice to die first, and I had been expecting, because he said in Wolves of Kala that he and Susanna were going to come to a bad end. So I was just waiting for that shoe to drop. It was sad, but not the way some other characters were sad.
Yeah.
F.
I mean, his was just depressing. I think this is more than anything else. Like, because it happens, and then like I feel like there's a good. The good thing about the deaths in this book is the book lets you grieve as well. And Eddie's, I think Eddie's grieving with Eddie still dying as he's slowly going out. That might be the toughest part of the book for me. That was real tough for me to get through. Not like bad, just like I'm very sad now. Because he wasn't quite dead. And like his lingering was what really I think was the worst.
It was very visceral in its descriptions of like when you have a dying person who's feverish and shitting all over themselves, and it's very undignified.
Mm-hmm.
And Stephen King didn't shy away from it being kind of a very undignified way to go. Like he would have just been shot and died.
Yeah. This was part one of my really kind of like. Remember I said like I was kind of back and forth. I was back and forth on this book a lot, and this was the first part I was really back and forth on because with Eddie. I had the opposite effect of you guys, where I expected a lot more from Eddie. Like I thought we were gonna get a lot more of him than we got, and for him to die the way he did, I was kind of mad for a hot minute.
I still kind of, give me a one-liner. That's all I wanted.
I was good. I was good with it.
I think I built it up in my head a lot more than I should have.
But they should have had Roland go to him and go, Eddie, tell me a joke.
I mean, it was there was a point in time around like book 5 where we were thinking, I was like, oh, is something going to happen to Roland and he is going to have to like take over because he was kind of.
There was a brief period where I thought that might be the case.
Yeah, where he was kind of acting like the second
Roland.
Den later. Yeah,
that's where I was.
He was going to be. It was brief, but there was a point where I thought he's going to become like the hardened old version of Roland.
But honestly, I think I'm glad that didn't happen. I'm glad that we were with Roland.
Oh, me too. Me too. I'm not in no way saying that like what we got wasn't good, because I do feel overall that like us being able to grieve as Eddie's dying is exactly what we needed.
And I think this is way better than Susanna getting up. Because like Susanna's story and process in the second half of the book, it doesn't make up Fran Goldsmith, but it's a lot better.
You can tell he learned.
Yeah, we'll get to Susanna. All right, anything else on Eddie?
Not really.
The eminent wise sage and eminent junkie will start together again.
That's his brother. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Henry Dean, the wise sage and intimate. Whatever. Yeah. Okay. This is the one that fucked me up, Jake. I did not see this coming at all.
And it was also super visceral.
It was super violent, very visceral, and very sudden. Just like Roland jumps out of the car and his hip just fucking gives out, and then boom, Jake's dead. It's like, fuck.
You really had to die for Stephen King.
Yeah. He was a cocksucker.
Save somebody and goes, hey, you saved Stephen King. I'm Dean Koontz.
Insert clip. The tower falls right there.
I've been waiting for like 2 weeks to make that joke.
That's so bad.
Yeah. Sorry.
And Irene's like, he didn't hesitate for a second. And Roland's like, I know.
Of course he didn't. He's my boy.
So you didn't think Jake's death was as sad as Eddie's?
It's not that I didn't think it was as sad. It was that his was definitely more shock value. I didn't have really a lot of grief going into it because I was more just in complete disbelief that he did it.
The only thing that really fucked me up about it was
I had a lot of I had a lot of 5 stages of grief in a lot of these points in these books, and Jake's was just like, I was confused. I was like, that no, surely not.
I think that Stephen King does a good job of flagging to you that one of them is about to die right before Eddie dies. like in this, picture them now as they are, because this is the last time they will ever be Tet. And the worst thing about it is these fall apart as fast as they form. So as soon as I read that, I was like, oh, one of them is about to die, and it's probably Eddie. And boom, he dies. And but with Jake, it's just like it happens, and
they even tried to sidetrack you where the book goes, Roland never even considered it might be him that dies. And I'm like, okay, sure, yeah. At that point, I didn't believe it at all.
So if I could sidetrack to Tolkien here for a minute.
I'm surprised it took you this long.
Yeah. So the whole like their Tet until one of them dies, and then the Tet is broken. Like there's no more Tet at all. Like they still, like are a group and they love each other.
Yeah, you're right.
But they can feel the difference. The Tet is broken.
Yeah.
So the biography I just read focuses on Tolkien's early life and his time in World War I, and he went to war with his 3 best friends from school, and they had like a club, they had like a union, they felt the 4 of them were like a brotherhood, almost like a ka-tet in and of themselves. And when the two of them ended up dying in the war, and when the first one is killed, Tolkien writes to the other 2, and he said this is paraphrasing, but our union is broken. We're still friends, but the four of us will never be the same as we once were. What the bonds that hold us together have been cut.
Yeah.
And yeah, I know. It's like,
I'm like, dude, you don't have to be so hard on everybody.
I mean, that his friends were probably like fuck you, John.
You like him the most.
But it's just like, wow. It's like, did Stephen King know about this? Did he like read about Tolkien's life? But it was because that was the book I read directly after The Dark Tower, and I was like, damn.
I jumped right into Fellowship. Like, I finished this at the gym and then immediately started, because instead of listening to music, now I listen to audiobooks.
Same. Well, I don't lift weights, but when I work out. Okay.
I don't work out, but if I did.
Anything else about Jake Chambers?
His burial scene brought me to a tear.
Yeah.
I think it was when Oi wouldn't, like he said, I thought Oi was just going to stay there and die with him, and I'm like, I don't know. That's when I got like a little bit teary eyed. I was like, oh no.
Ache.
Yeah, it was I hate to focus so much on his death, but that's like the biggest impact.
Yeah.
That you're left with a bunch of these characters. It is the final book in the series.
Yeah.
It's not that, and he had other good moments. It's just what sticks out the most. It's that.
That's the thing about a lot of this too, is like none of the deaths are super flashy. Like it just happens.
No.
It's sudden, it happens, and you're just kind of left there to...
I guess Callahan's was the closest one to being flashy.
I agree, yeah. I mean...
Yeah.
Yeah, but the other ones are just so... just
Even went out
instant.
The final Vegeta attack.
Yeah.
No.
If Ake said so, you could take that to the Billy Bumbler bank. As far as the way it was. Speaking of Oi, the Brave.
Wait. Before we go to Oi, I did want to ask about this. Since we just talked about Jake and Eddie, what do we think about... Well, I guess we can wait till Susanna. Continue.
Hold on, I think Emma's coming.
Sure.
Hi.
And it occasionally just keeps happening. 100.
Was it almost dead?
No.
It likes some more.
Oh.
Yeah, I fixed things.
I swear they went
I believe you.
Dad mode
It's
activate.
called...
Also, they went to bed.
They both went to bed?
Bed.
Okay, don't complain. I'm sorry, we're talking about Roll.
Lord of the Rings.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so whatever you were going to say, you want to hold it for Susanna?
Yeah, I was gonna wait. It seems better if we wait till that, I guess.
I guess technically Susanna's story
It interweaves with that.
is all resolved before Oi's story. So, yeah, let's talk about Susanna. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, I guess the precursor to Susanna herself was, what did we think about Jake and Eddie being in the other world as like two brothers?
Hated everything about it.
The ghost, the Christmas past, and I thought it was fine, and it didn't bother me.
It was a Rick and Morty episode where she goes to a different universe and goes, oh, this is just as fine. There's infinite worlds. I can replace the... If my love or your loved ones died and you went, well, I can go to another world and the ones here are just as good. Okay, Scarlet Witch.
I mean, I'd rather do that than die at the foot of the tower.
I think I'd rather die at the foot of the tower, but that's like one of the few things I really hate about like multiverse stories.
Well, this it's not the same as the Scarlet Witch, because she creates figments with her magic powers.
Yeah.
And this
is more Rick and Morty, where he literally goes replaces them with just other versions in the multiverse.
Yeah, they're actual beings.
Yeah.
Well, that's yeah. I mean, I don't know anything about Rick and Morty, but
It happens in like episode 3. Like everybody dies and they just go to a different multiverse and like replace everybody.
I was a little torn on it. I was more, but I think that was me as the reader. I had a problem with it. Like I just kind of had I'm kind of like with Daniel, where like it felt kind of like she cheated. Because like
it's a story. It's about multiverses. Like
I know, I agree, and I also have that kind of hang up on multiverses where like you're either super punished or not, and then when you're not, it's not that I'm mad about it. It's just it feels
consequence.
Yeah, it feels like
there may be a consequence. Like, what if that world doesn't have tampons?
Well, she won't remember because her memory starts to fade, and she immediately starts to adapt to the world.
The only thing
She may always have a feeling in the pit of her stomach that something's not.
Yeah, it's called her monthly, dude. What are you talking
My
about?
mother got me dog and named it Boy. That was just slightly more intelligent than it should have been.
So the only thing that made me like sit with it all right was the fact that once we got to the time loop thing, I was like, oh. So you're telling me the second time she comes around and she goes through that door, it's very likely she just falls it back into the train station where she lost her legs, and you know.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, like if it was time was spun backward for Roland, it for her too.
The time loop made almost every problem I had with this book okay.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about the ending. But just at the time, like when I'm listening to it, I'm just like, it's just one of my hang-ups. And I, like, being big of a comic book fan as I am, I like when you do a multiverse story, they're either really good or they're really bad because of issues like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't love it, but I also didn't hate it.
And the book, like the earlier books, made like the biggest mistake I feel in all those stories, and that's that one of the universes is more real than the other.
Yeah, that still bothers me.
Yeah, that's the biggest issue I have with multiverse stories. I'm like, you either have multiverse or you have one real world and everything is just kind of imaginary.
The way that he could have resolved that for me personally is if Keystone Earth was the actual physical location of the tower itself.
Yeah.
But it's not.
Yeah. It's somewhere else.
Yeah.
And I thought that's where they were going to go at first, but anyway. But everything leading up to I almost kind of wish they would have just left was through the door ambiguous. But yeah.
Yeah, I think even though I didn't hate what happened, I still think that may have been better.
Yeah. And I know that some people hate ambiguous things, but when you're already doing a time reset anyway.
My only little pushback on that is the dreams she has of Ed and Jake.
Yeah, saying like, "Hey, come here, we have hot cocoa,"
and it was the best hot cocoa.
Yeah, I still would have liked it to be ambiguous, and then you could have gone. She either found other versions, if that's what your preference is, or she was tricked.
Or they could have just said like she went through the door and she lived happily ever after. Yeah. So, like she found happiness somewhere with someone. So
a lot of the stuff leading up to it, I really liked with her.
So let me just ask: like we've all been terrified that she was going to turn into another Franny Goldsmith.
No, because she did stuff through the books.
Yeah, exactly.
It wasn't just like she did stuff in the other books, but I was afraid she was going to give birth and then just kind of disappear from importance.
Yeah.
But she fights back against her sort of offspring,
Mordred.
And
Mordred Shang.
Oh God, what was that other the creature, the emotion
vampire?
Of her? Yeah. Do you have him listed on here? No. Okay, it's not that. This is what reminded me of Tolkien. Now that I'm in Lord of the Rings, is and I think Tolkien's better at this than thing.
Yeah. What writing?
It reminds me of RPG.
Damn.
Where it's like, here's a side quest where there's a seemingly random thing, and indeed, it felt more like an actual side quest in Stephen King, where in Tolkien it feels more like, well, here's just a part of the world.
Yeah.
But that's what it reminded me of. Was like, hey, here's this random thing that doesn't seem all that connected to everything else you've been reading.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that what King wanted was to make it feel like a living world, but it felt more video gamey in King than it does in Tolkien.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's parts of it that feel real and parts of it that feel less real.
Yeah.
But it's so long.
Yeah.
And there's so much of it.
But she got to do stuff, at least a side quest.
Yeah, I mean, she's important, and she, aside from Oi, she's the last standing member of the ka-tet.
And I think one of the things that really helps, like, her avoid Franny's status is she pushes back emotionally with Roland.
Yes.
Like, where Franny just kind of disappears or goes along with what her man says.
Yeah, Stu said I can't go. Mother Abigail said I can't go, so I guess I'm not going to go.
But she's like, you would literally just kill all of us so you could get your fix.
If they gave, like, a reason why Fran had to stay in Boulder, like,
that was related to the plot.
Yeah, like, I don't know, like maybe Flag sent like a small detachment to attack Boulder, and because Fran was there,
she had to make her stand there.
Yeah, they avoided destruction because Fran was there.
Yeah, something.
But no, they just ventured.
And it's weird how much just like little changes of like letting her pull a trigger and calling Roland an asshole helps avoid that status.
F.
I like Susanna a lot in this book. I am also very glad they didn't just do nothing with her after this. I actually enjoyed that little side jaunt to the emotional vampire. I don't know, it was a nice little break, I think, from the actual story. Like, usually I hate shit like that. Usually I can't, it bothers the fuck out of me when things do that. But this one was just short and sweet and a nice little segue after dealing with so much, I'm going to say, like, I don't know, dour, very, I don't know, plot, I was going to say their plot, like, the plot was just, like, so thick and everything like that. This just kind of came in, it was just, like, this nice little extra OVA that I got where I'm like, oh, this is kind of nice, actually.
Yeah, I didn't dislike that part of it. It wasn't long with
that helped a lot, yeah. But it's and she's, but I love like her final thing, like talking with Roland and telling him, this is how I think, this is how I feel. Like, she's like, I'm gonna tell you that I'm going to do this, and if you don't agree with me, I'm sorry, but this is just how this is gonna go. And the fact that she's the one that pulls the final piece of emotion out of Roland. Even Jake, like, doesn't get the emotion out of Roland that Susanna got right before she left. Like, she was the final nail in the coffin to get our boy to realize, he fucked up at some point, and this is how the rest of his life goes. He can't go with his ka-tet anymore, and she's the one that tells him like it is. It's like, this is what you set up. This is what you did. Like, she's the one that brings this to his mind and kind of punishes him. And I found that to be very cathartic for me as the reader, not only because it was Susanna, but because I feel it was everything we didn't get from Fran back in the stand. It was everything we needed to have to wrap it up.
Yeah, she didn't even have to have 6 boys fuck her in a sewer to make it happen.
I think Stephen King should have had that happen.
You can't put. Can you imagine putting a train on a girl who got run over by a train?
I got it in my legs, my poor Lord. Okay, quick side tangent. I told you guys about Emma's English teacher, and she has the gunslinger and like some other.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, I didn't see it when I was there, but apparently she also has multiple copies of Stephen King's It.
What?
And one of so they have like reading groups. They have like 4 or 5 different reading groups in the class, and each group reads a different book and does like a group presentation on that book. And for the next set of books, one of those groups is planning on doing It. And I said, Emma, has your teacher read that book?
Oh my God.
I don't know.
Oh my God.
Okay, I'm going to tell you this to try and keep your teacher from being fired. And don't let this color your entire perception of this book, because it's a very good book. But children have sex in a sewer in that book.
I mean, they have people read Huckleberry Finn. They just drop Animorph everywhere.
There are edited versions.
Did they say it with a soft hand?
Oh, they say it with a Sharpie.
Oh my god. In the year of 2025, we have brought to your attention the idea of it in middle school libraries. How woke are you?
I don't think there's any amount of woke that makes that okay.
I know. Oh my god. That's...
Okay.
Oh.
Real quick, back to Susanna. I thought it was super brave of her to decide not to go the rest of the way with Roland.
Mm-hmm.
I think had Jake or Eddie been the last member, they both absolutely would have gone with him and just died.
I liked her leaving, and I liked walking through the door. That's, again, emotional pushback. It was just the payoff I wasn't too hot on.
She drove her golf cart through the
Yeah. Automatic carts.
It was like a four-wheeler. She's like, this is what I've always wanted.
I know it wasn't exactly that, but I was picturing like one of those little buggies that they have at the Walmarts.
Yeah.
And she just like had her little thing going, why didn't I ever get one of these?
Because you were born in the 60s. You were from the 60s, that's why.
I pictured a tiny, loud little moped, and every single time she was riding around on that, all I heard was that little moped as they were having dialogue. So when she's, goodbye, Roland, and you just hear Roland go, but wait, Susanna, as he's talking, all I hear is going through the door.
You know, I like to imagine that Eddie was actually really into people, but that's how much he likes Susanna, who was willing to go with her anyway.
Like, if you're really into thick girls, but you fall in love with a skinny woman, and
yeah, you're just like, you know,
I love her.
I love her.
Yeah. Okay.
No comment.
The last standing member of the ka-tet stood on all four legs. Oi, the brave of Midworld. I knew that he was going to die the second that he didn't go with Susanna. And I know he didn't go with Susanna because Jake told him not to. Jake gave him the mission to make sure Roland got to the tower. But fuck, that was sad.
He
go out like no bitch, though.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, he had a Callahan feels like, you know, motherfucker went out swinging.
Yeah. Pussy shit.
The burial of Oi, I thought was fantastic. Like where he just puts him in the rose garden. I was just like sitting there, and I'm not even trying to be mean. I'm just like, okay, so you know, they put Eddie in the ground, they put Jake in the ground next to a highway, but Oi, nah sir, we roll out the red carpet. We get the roses, we get the nice little track laid out, we got the nice boy making sketches of it. Like he got
To be fair, it's a lot easier to bury than the other ones.
I'm not arguing, but I'm just saying, like you're talking about royal treatment burial. Our boy Oi got all the garnish.
He got the fixins.
He got to be buried with Aragorn in Gondor.
Yes, he did. Yeah. But that was all. I very much enjoyed that Oi went the distance, and Oi's character. I like that Oi grew. Is that weird for me to say? Like,
you know, he was kind of like the stupid dog, and then like, you know, he had a relationship with Jake, and then he became a full member of ka-tet, so much so that his name was shouted at the foot of the tower, and he doesn't ultimately stop Mordred, but he does stop Mordred from killing Roland. So without Oi, Roland would not have made it to the tower.
I appreciated him, I don't know, treating him like not quite an equal, but like kind of his, like he was just, you know, he was the good soldier, the good friend, and I don't know. Every time he gave Oi props, it warmed my heart.
Yeah. Oi didn't eat his dinner. I was so sad.
Oh, I know.
Eat your dinner, Oi. Okay. Now I have a bunch of characters listed here. I don't think we're gonna go as long on any of them, and I'm going to group some of them together and we'll talk about them as groups, but we'll try to hammer along, but I don't think any of us thought this episode was going to be 40 minutes long.
No.
So, Stephen King, and we kind of already mentioned it. Kind of walked back on like the worst moment for me in Song of Susanna is when they're going up his driveway and they both have to throw up. They're
in such reverence.
They literally throw up on the side of the road.
I have such a conflicted feeling because I feel like he walked it back, which is what I feel he needed to do. But at the same time, I'm like, man, you should have just doubled down at this point.
I don't know. That might have ruined the last book for me.
Because I'm like, I'm already here.
I do agree. Like, generally speaking, if you make a decision, even if it's the wrong one, in writing, not in life,
like,
you go with it.
You can find ways to write around it, and I felt like he was trying to, but a lot of the ways were like, oh, I'm not really God, it just speaks through me. Mm-hmm. But then they'll say that and they go, oh, I'm not sure if he's telling me the truth, you know? It's like Stephen King wanted to have both options available.
Yeah.
So...
It is a little wishy-washy, but I think I ultimately prefer this to what we had in the last book. Hef, what do you think?
I always think whenever I always refer back to whenever like they first meet him for the first time and like he could be Roland's father, and I'm a petty bitch, and I went, so he's ugly?
I'm still picturing Idris Elba as Roland.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So in my head, it's not even close to the same.
That's why he uses the Emperor so much.
No, I'm picturing him like Stephen King, like as like an older white Idris Elba. This is not what
You look like my father, Stephen Deshay.
But I do think that there is a pitfall when a writer reaches a certain level of success, where they're like, they've been describing this dude as a grizzled Westerner that can sling guns. Basically, he's a Clint Eastwood from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And then Stephen King's like, he's just like me. He's just like me for real.
You know, the best thing, the best line, like this would have been the best line of all of the books, is if something like they see Stephen King and they're like, he looks like just like Roland. He could have been Roland's father. If Eddie would have said, well, then you forgot the face of your father.
I don't mean to be mean. It's just like, I see Stephen King and I do not picture a guy who lives in a gritty Western setting.
No.
He's written about Florida a few times. That's probably really gritty.
Yeah. I mean, Florida is gritty. But
yeah. I always, for this book, like with Stephen King, it's funny because like it's like, so you're telling me by the end of this book that Stephen King's message to us is that Stephen King ruined the world.
Maybe.
That's what I was like,
give him another chance. He's gonna write it again.
I do think, and I said this earlier, but I'll reiterate, I do think that writing this may have been partially a cathartic exercise for him after narrowly escaping death in a real world car accident. Is probably a therapy, no, is definitely a therapy that most people in that situation would not have as an option to themselves. So.
Oh yeah, well that's kind of what I've heard too back where like I felt like in some ways this book is kind of autobiographical. Like there are points of this book where like it really does feel like he was more writing his feelings than he was plot.
I wonder if he had a dog named Oi.
He wanted one, but his wife didn't let him.
Fuck you, Cabby.
That's why she didn't get to be a character.
All right, real quick, I thought this book has some weird detours. I really enjoyed this one. Irene Tassenbaum.
Is this the woman who cheated on her husband because she was bored?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
She dies and everything miserable in the world happens to her.
She doesn't.
Yeah. She just got to cheat with a really grizzled man from a different universe and suffers no consequences. Because her husband works computers and is a little autistic.
Well, I think that most couples have like a list, like, okay, here's 5 people that it's okay.
Yeah. And she was like, if I ever meet one of them walk-ins, I get a walk-in.
Like, she might have had Clint Eastwood on her list.
Okay, I'll give her a pass if she had Clint Eastwood on.
And her husband approved it.
Yeah.
I was just really appreciative that Betty White got a guest appearance in the last book.
I think I missed that. Or was Betty White?
I said I was just really happy that Betty White got her guest appearance in the final book. That's what I can.
When was Betty White in the book?
He pictured this woman.
I pictured this woman as Betty White.
She's like 40.
Yeah, but like not in Gilmore Girls. Or not Gilmore Girls, Golden Girls.
I mean,
that's around
40.
That's what I'm picturing, like, but that's what I pictured her as, was just like a younger Betty White.
Oh, okay.
Like, there's nothing deeper about it. It was just me being a smartass and it not firing.
Okay.
I pictured her as my ex-wife, so.
Of course you did.
I don't know. I just kind of pictured her as generic, like, milfy housewife, kind of.
I thought it was a weird segue, but, like, again, in so many of the other books, like, I just had so many problems when they would have segues, but for some reason in this book, like, none of the segues really bothered me too much. I love John Cullum when they meet him in Song of Susanna, and it's just like, Roland's just like, man, I was so lucky to find a man with true grit. And then, like, the same thing happens with Irene. It's just like, she's calm, she could drive the truck. I just thought it was cool. And then they fucked. And then
it was pretty sweet.
Which was just hilarious to me.
Yeah. Okay. Patrick Danville.
Is that the kid?
That's the artist.
Okay.
It's kind of weird, and it kind of felt weird that the last part of the book, Roland spends with this random character.
A character that we just introduced in the final chapters.
But the way Steve writes it, this character is absolutely essential, or Roland would not have defeated the Crimson King, which we will get to. Save your Crimson King commentary.
I have a really good one.
But Patrick, I mean, I don't know. Like,
I'm for it. I'm for it and against it. I liked the out. I don't know. I liked what he gave us. I just kind of wish he would have done it earlier. I don't know. I would have liked to have grown with Patrick.
It kind of was like you had to invent this kid just so that he could have this power available to him at the tower. And it was kind of like, why didn't Jake, like, have this power? Like, Jake had the shine.
Well, and that's this whole thing we talked about, like, back in fucking book 3, where, like, we always felt like Jake was going to have more of a role than he did, and
he saved Stephen King.
I mean, but, like, as we've discussed, I mean, it's just, I feel like there's just, I don't know, that one still kind of gnaws at me. If we're going to
think...
Go ahead.
Do you think Jake was given an ordeal by the spirit world to get his life back? Do you think, like, Botan showed up and was like, hey, here's this egg.
Don't you bring Yu Yu Hakusho in to try to make this better. Don't do that.
Can you imagine how Roland would react to Koima?
This is no dark tournament.
Well, good news is Jake already knows how to use a spirit gun.
Yeah.
No. I feel like that's like the one thing. Like, if you're gonna do Patrick at all, I feel like giving to us a little bit earlier would have been a lot better. And if you roll him back to the point where we got him, I feel like, I don't know, make Jake be the artist and just have another few things of just peppering it through. But I don't know. I'm really torn on Patrick. I think that could have been done better.
Let's go a little like get out of jail free card.
Yes.
Because he wrote this character that has like a very overpowered ability that literally just exists to help resolve them.
Yeah, but to be fair, like, it only saves Roland for a few minutes.
And I was reading it, and the way Stephen King was writing about this kid, I was like, is he from another Stephen King book?
I thought he was from... Was he in Insomnia, or
I
was
haven't
that
read Insomnia yet? But
I'm not sure.
But like that's the thing is like I felt like I was expected to know who he was, but I didn't. So it got a little rough for me there.
I think I got confused because they were talking about Insomnia kind of like right before he was introduced, and then for some reason I thought he was the main character of Insomnia, which I don't think he is.
Yeah.
Oh, no. He is in Insomnia. Patrick Danville first appears in the novel Insomnia.
Okay, so that's probably why he was written the way he was.
He would probably feel less random to us.
If you
Yeah.
read Insomnia.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I understand that it's part of the Stephen King multiverse,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't know that until like book 6, unless like you know the spoilers. So like by the time you get to book 6, you don't think to go back and read all the other Stephen King books.
Yeah.
If you're in a series.
Okay, moving on, and not all individually, but just as a group. The founding fathers, Moses Carver, John Cullum, and Aaron Deepnow.
They serve their purpose.
I thought we don't meet Moses until like almost the very end, and then like his granddaughter or his daughter spends like the whole time telling him to just be less black.
She did.
God, I was like, she's about ready to use a slur. She's about ready to call him the C word.
I was kind of picturing like a black Alfred who was like taking care of like little baby Susanna, like
Yeah, like Black Alfred.
Oh, nope. I went straight to Red Fox.
Okay.
Yeah, no. I mean, just he was dangerously close to being as like over the top. I'm glad they didn't do like what Susanna was in book 2, but like it was always on the cusp. So like the more outlandish.
Stephen King too, but it was now 2004.
Yeah. I think that it helped a lot that he was only in the one scene. I think if this book character would have been throughout the entire book, it would have been a different story.
He would have dropped some M-bombs.
It was real. I really like John Cullum coming back. I can't exactly explain why I like that character so much, but I do. Maybe it's a little Bilbo Bagginsy. Is just a normal guy who kind of gets thrown into this adventure, and he never gets like a lead role. He doesn't get to go all the way to Mount Doom, but he still got to be part of the team, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Our 3 founding fathers were not the Axis powers, but you know, still they still had their moments.
Yeah.
I like that half tacitly admitting that the Axis powers had their moment.
The unified Europe. I think I'll have to cut that out.
Yeah, but it's a private clip for us.
What's funny is I was talking about FDR, American Badass. I didn't even think about the deeper meaning that I meant by me saying that.
Do you ever think about the deeper meaning before anything you say? Before you say it?
Not as much as I used to.
That's a chronic issue with men.
Yeah, we just say things.
I like to. I'm trying real hard not to think it's me being cantankerous as I get older. It's really hard to fight against sometimes.
Cantankerosity.
Yeah, I've promised myself for years. I'm like, I will not be one of these people that get so set in their ways and whatnot. And then there's times where like I just talk to people and I just like, yeah, just say it.
All right, to our Rebel Breakers, Ted Brodigadinky and Shimi. Just generally, I was happy to see Shimi come back.
Shimi getting to come back, I was okay with. I was like, yeah, like of course, of course you bring him back to the finale.
Mm-hmm. And I enjoyed Ted's the little brief biography on Ted. Like, you would think like some of these like little divergencies would be annoying in this book because you're like, come on, get on with it, let's see what happens. But like, Ted shit was interesting. I enjoyed it. And again, he's a character from another book, so. But I knew that about him.
Where's he from?
Hearts in Atlantis.
Oh, I haven't read that one. This was the only segue portion that I was less high on than the other ones, and I think that was because I came off the high of Father Callahan, and then this is like very tepid for a very long time.
This is a lot of playing.
This was the least. To me, this part was the least interesting of all the other tangents we went on. Nothing against it. I don't think it's like necessarily bad. I just think it was like the least I paid attention the least when I was listening to it.
It is kind of the earlier part of the book. Okay, and let's wrap up with our villains, the Red. And let's do this in reverse from what I have them. Let's start with Mordred Duchesne. Daniel?
He's a spider.
He's part spider.
I like that he basically, it's not what kills him, but the thing that makes him act quicker that leads to his death is he gets the shits.
He's got food poisoning.
Because he just eats whatever he finds.
Because he eats that horse.
And you don't think about this, but it's like, I wasn't expecting the shape-shifting were-spider, spawn of a demon god thing, to be able to die from the shits. And just shitting all over himself. I don't know, to me that was just kind of funny.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, I was thinking, like, okay, they've introduced, like, this... He's not the big bad, but he's, like, an immense villain.
He's like I was picturing, like, the Avatar.
Yeah.
We'll get to it when I get to the Crimson King, but I didn't think we were actually going to get the Crimson King at all.
I wish we wouldn't have.
I thought we were going, like, this was going to be, like, this amorphous idea of a bad guy working through Mordred, and that's how we were going to resolve, like, a conflict that I didn't think guns could solve. Turns out guns couldn't solve them.
Yeah.
But the way it was written, but we'll get to it when we talk to the Crimson King, but that's what I thought Mordred was going to be. And instead, it's just kind of like, I'm just a little were-spider dude. I get tummy aches just like you.
Well, I mean, he was a kid who didn't have a parent to take care of him.
Yeah. He was very childlike, but it wasn't what I thought we were going to get, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I thought we were going to get something more like Randall Flagg via Mordred.
I liked Mordred. I couldn't imagine how it was going to resolve. I was happy with how it was resolved. I was kind of expecting a Mexican standoff at the end between Mordred, the Crimson King, and Roland.
Kind of, yeah.
That's how the good, the bad, and the ugly is with a free standoff.
Okay.
So that's what I was kind of expecting. Hef?
I think Mordred was that wet fart that ends up being the shit you don't want to take in Walmart. I hated it. I hated Mordred. I disliked everything about him. Like, they seemed like it was going to be something set up, and, like, to me, it was just disappointing. It went nowhere, and I did not like it. I think he sucked.
I mean, that's beats.
Or Mia.
I disliked him also as the killer of Randall Flagg. That felt so.
Yeah,
that felt so flat to me.
We're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to that. Well, I guess let's get.
Speaking of Randall Flagg.
Randall Flagg. So,
I have two thoughts on this. On one hand, it definitely subverts your expectations.
Yes.
And that's good enough for you. Like, if being surprised at a character's end and kind of taking a hard left turn with the villain is your idea of a good time.
It is not good enough for me in this instance.
Then this is the story for you. On the other hand, we just had like 6 other books alluding to Randall Flagg or him working in the background.
Plus all the other stuff that they referenced.
The Eyes of the Dragon.
Eyes of the Dragon. And on one hand, it's kind of funny to see him go out like a little bitch because of all the like horrible things he's done.
If you think about it, he is kind of a little bitch.
Yeah, but at the same time, I'm like, he was really kind of built up in the Stephen King multiverse to be the big bad guy.
So let me go ahead and loop the Crimson King into this, and I'll tell you my thoughts. This is the Crimson King's description in the Dark Tower wiki. He is the overarching antagonist of the Stephen King multiverse.
Is he?
He is, and he sucks.
Yeah.
He's terrible. Why could Randall Flagg is actually
because he shows up in the multiverse.
So why didn't it just turn out that Flagg was the Crimson King?
Or if he subverted the Crimson King.
I was to say he usurped the king. I was expecting something like that.
Yeah.
We're going to do the usurping idea that they kind of introduced with Mordred. Well, Randall Flagg was already doing it.
What if when he gets the tower, there is a Mexican standoff, but it's between Flagg, the Crimson King, and Roland, and Flagg kills the Crimson King.
Or if you were going to do my Avatar idea, Flagg is just the avatar of the Crimson King in the multiverse. That's how he interacts with it.
Yeah, that would have been fine. Anything other than what we got with the Crimson King?
The Crimson King, how he had been described, and how he's described in the books, is he's basically a god that lives in the tower.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it turns out he wasn't even in the tower at first.
He's trapped on the thing.
Yeah, and I'm like... So I was picturing like this all-powerful entity that guns weren't going to be able to solve. But the way he's described, if Roland got close enough, he could just shoot the guy. Mm-hmm. He's just a guy. I'm like, that is so disappointing compared to this like amorphous idea of evil that is seeping into the multiverse via dreams and avatars and manipulation.
So let me read you his aliases. So the Crimson King, Antichrist, Big Red, Lord of Discordia, Lord of Chaos, Lord of the Spiders, Los the Red, Ram Umbala, Red Daddy, Satan,
Red Daddy,
Satan, the Kingfish, the Red King, and this is his profile pic.
Yeah, like that's
how sweet is that?
That's what I was picturing, like some dude that was sitting in the tower, trapped there.
I'm sending it to you, Hov.
Okay.
That was like on a throne of skulls. That was so powerful that he could still influence the multiverse, but still couldn't conquer the tower on his own. Because that's what he was doing in the other books.
He's literally a guy on a balcony with a bunch of
grenades.
He's got Harry Potter toys. He's throwing toys.
I'm like, this what? No, this is fair because this is what Stephen King set up.
Yeah.
So fuck it, this is fair. I was picturing a Cthulhu-esque entity that was actually beyond the realm of the physical, that was trapped in this linchpin of reality.
Mm-hmm.
Not a dude on a balcony tossing Harry Potter toys.
It was totally lame and disappointing, and I instantly thought of like 6 other ways I would have preferred it to go. I
literally was making a list of better ways, and I hate to be the guy to go, I could do it better, Stephen King. I think Dean Koontz could have written this ending better, or could have written the Crimson King better.
Yeah, I don't know if he was just so exhausted and just ran out of ideas.
I just can't believe we got an ending to the biggest, baddest dude of the universe in the same way that an artist got rid of Daffy Duck.
Yeah.
I mean, my legs! That would have been fine if he was an all-powerful entity. Like, you literally need to erase it from existence.
I don't take issue with Patrick erasing him, like...
But if it's just a dude you can shoot with a gun...
Yeah. It was more so the Crimson King himself that I didn't like. Yeah, it was just disappointing.
Yeah.
Thankfully, it was a very important part of the book, but it was a very small... Yeah.
And I mean, you build up this dude over the course, not just 7 novels, because he's in more. It turns out.
Yeah.
But
maybe it wouldn't have been as bad as if we had this actually like better villain in Randall Flagg, who's been built up longer and parallel along with the Crimson King.
That's why I think you should have just made him an avatar. This is the only way he can interact with things outside the tower.
So, real brief spoiler for the Dark Tower movie. The Crimson King is not in the Dark Tower movie, but on like buildings and stuff, like all over, it's spray painted in red. Hail the Crimson King.
Yeah.
And Emma, and he's mentioned like once or twice. And Emma's like, is Randall Flagg the Crimson King? And I'm like, no.
I wish.
No, I'm generally unfond of the way villains were handled in this book.
Yeah. It also doesn't help that a bunch of the ways they were handled like right at the end of the book.
Yeah. I didn't like what they did to Flag. I didn't like Mordred overall. I didn't like the Crimson King. Like, I thought villains were just so weak in this book.
I mean, I Randall Flag so much from the stand that I started wearing a jean jacket.
See, I disliked him in the stand, but with all the other stuff that we've been given through all the other stuff we've read, like, I don't even care that he went out like that. It pisses me off that it was Mordred that did it. That's
Even if the Crimson would have done it himself.
Anything would have been like, I
felt like anything would have been better than what we got for the villain.
Yes.
The most iconic, like, the Man in Black fled across the desert and the gunslinger followed. Like, that line is like the essence of this story, and the Man in Black is not there.
Yeah.
For the resolution. He does kind of, because once the wheel turns back.
And what it was meant to be, I think, is the dwarf effect. You know, you want to show how powerful your new bad guy is, you have them hurt another bad guy that you're more familiar with. And
like dwarf from Star Trek?
Yeah, they do it in Star Trek a lot. When they want to show how strong an alien is, they have an alien beat him up. So the trope is called the dwarf effect. It happens to Superman a lot. You see comics, you want to show how tough and nuclear carries, you have them hit Superman so hard that he feels it.
I feel like everybody beat the dwarf.
Yeah. Well, that's why it diminishes the character that was originally supposed to be a badass over time. And that's what they did too, like in this.
So I picked up your super. I have like a ton of comics for you.
Oh shit! Yeah.
And I picked up one. That's some of them.
Oh wow!
Hold on, that's not you. So I picked up some Superman comics, and there's a new clerk who's a guy there. I'm like, oh, I'm picking up comics for you, Daniel. And oh, okay, I got them. And he's like, oh, you read Superman? This new Superman's really good. Blah 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 blah. Superman. And he's like, I want to talk about Superman with you. And I'm like, sorry, I'm not Daniel. I'm read Superman. I'm sorry. It's like, oh, like, you sure you don't want to talk about Superman? I'm like, sorry.
Sorry.
I like his red boots.
You should have really thrown a sidewinder at him and just been like, Dean Cain is my favorite, and left.
I would never utter those words. That's one for you.
It's not.
Okay. Alright, scary shit. Is this book scary?
If you don't like your eyes getting sucked out, maybe.
It was not scary, but I did have one of the most visceral reactions to anything in these Dark Tower books. And the slow moody kid was going to eat the boogery tissues. Like, I was dry heaving. I was so grossed out. That was... I mean, there are really bad things in these books, but like eating a tissue filled with snot, just like I was not having it. That was too much.
That's too real.
F.
Anything scary, man? That fucking emotional vampire scene was pretty unnerving. Like, I'm just gonna make you stop breathing. I don't like the idea that like somebody's making me laugh so hard that I can't breathe, and then they just kind of looking down on me as I'm laughing so hard, as they're I'm
there.
Yeah.
I've seen Larry Cable Guy live. I've been there.
No.
Okay, you are. That's funny, man. Yeah. I had a wet part and my sister's melted. That's funny right there.
Yeah, I used to date a midget stripper. Met her at a bachelor party. She popped out of a cupcake. I don't care who you are right there. God, I'm sorry. Be with the starving pygmies in New Guinea.
I can't wait to send you the video version I'm recording of this, just so that you can see my face during these particular moments in time.
Oh, I drop it right into Audacity, so I will not be seeing your face.
That's probably better.
Yeah.
I'm missing a mustache right now, so that's probably better.
No.
Please, no.
I got $25 for it.
All right, that's fair.
Yeah, you know
That's
what?
fair. I mean, you can grow back. Well, maybe not you. It might. What's it take you to grow a mustache? Like 6 months? Or it's not a knock against you. It's your Indian blood.
Yeah. The mustache actually comes back quicker than the rest of it. I think it's just because I shaved it for so many years.
Okay, Kiss Me, Fat Boy. Not this book, but
Let's go, Irene. Oh, I swear. Oh, Irene.
Who? That's Eileen.
I don't care.
Who had the best? Who had the best fuck out of all the books? What was the best fuck?
Best fuck?
The best fuck.
I think our headcanon.
Headcanon? I want to hear that headcanon.
Oh no, there was just the one we were talking about, which I still think about it, it was when we were talking about the third book where they're pulling Jake into their world, and Roland and Suzanne are talking like, well, one of us is gonna have to fuck that thing in order to distract it, and they're like, well, what if it's like bisexual or something like that? And he's like, then we'll take it together or something like that. and then in my head, like what I imagined was Jake being pulled through to the gate by Eddie. He pops up and all he sees is Roland with his pants down, dick out, fucking the air, while Susanna also taking the air that's in between them, and it just looks like them gyrating between nothing, but they're both fucking something, and Jake's just like, I think I'll just go back. It's probably better.
I'll go face the health demon.
Yeah. And I picture that every now and then, just them fucking air together.
To me, the hottest one, and I don't remember her name, and I feel bad.
Oh, Salma Hayek.
Yeah, it's Callahan's like house lady that Roland like hooks up with, and she like puts like Old West Bengay on his. I just thought that was kind of hot. So like, come back to my hut and I'll just rub Bengay all over you.
She jerks him off with Bengay.
Yeah, like, you're tough if you can get jerked off with Bengay as the lube.
Oh, I'm tough.
I don't know. I thought it was hot.
Wouldn't recommend it.
Icy hot.
Bengay's real hot. Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend that either.
Daniel.
I objectively probably Roland and Susanna because they were just young teenagers.
Roland and Susan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's like, oh yeah, still on my mission. I'm just gonna go with this girl. I'm like, yeah.
So, I had this video. The Pokemon card game came out with an app like MTG Arena, and I've been playing it, and I made a video for my channel. And there's this Misty card.
Yeah.
And Misty says, flip a coin until you stop getting heads, and put a water energy on that Pokemon for each head you get. So you can play a Pokemon and then just get really lucky and put like a bunch of energy on it and just win on turn one. And there's like this really like oppressive combo out right now. Everybody's like pissed about and they want to ban a card. So I made this video where I was like, okay, I figured out how you win. You just play Misty and you get really lucky with Misty. And one of my subscribers commented and says, I want to get really lucky with Misty. Like winky face emoji. I'm like, dude, she's 12.
Still, that doesn't feel fair. I got a crush on her when I was 9.
Okay, then that's fine, but you don't publicly be like, dude, I want to knock boots with her.
I like the sexual misconduct of like the Misty card basically giving so much head that it squirts.
Why do you think Ash kept her around for so long?
She that stamina.
It's not true.
Though.
He kept Brock along a lot longer than Misty.
Just because Ash is actually cucking, he likes to.
That would explain some things.
Yeah.
Okay. The power of Christ compels you. The white, then the red.
I mean, yeah.
Good and evil.
Sauron and not Sauron.
You know why Sauron was so awesome? because he didn't show up on like a balcony at Barad-dûr just like hurling grenades at Frodo and Sam.
Throwing rocks at the
No! Don't throw it in the volcano! Stop it! It's just better that he doesn't appear ever.
I like the
More
idea.
menacing.
He sounds like Gilbert Godfrey when you finally get into Mount Doom. It's like, no, you get out of my hole.
Yeah. All right. We're gonna do Kings and Koontz, and I would like you guys to give a King and a Koontz for book 7, and for the series as a whole. Daniel, why don't you start us off with your King and your Koontz, then just go ahead and do both for the 7th book specifically, and then we'll come back around and do the series as a whole.
My King 7 is the time loop.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's actually one of the better written time loops I've come across.
In your Koontz.
God, I went back and forth on this one a lot. I really didn't like the part right before we got the ending, where Stephen King is writing, "Oh, I bet you want an ending. It's really more about the journey." I'm like, I really don't feel like being lectured for this book I paid for. Just give me the story, King. You already made yourself God. I think that's going to be my Koontz.
My King, I have 2. One is the ending, which I thought was phenomenal. I absolutely loved it. And the other is just Roland at the base of the tower shouting the names of all of his fallen comrades. I thought it was amazing. It gave me chills. My Koontz, I'll tell you what my actual Koontz is, and then I'll tell you what I thought was going to be my Koontz through the entire book.
Okay, I'm ready.
My actual Koontz is the Crimson King.
Yeah, that's a good Koontz.
What I thought was going to be my Koontz up until we got to the Crimson King was, and the 3 of them, 4 if you count Oi, and the 5 of them, 6 if you count Oi, and the 2 of them, 3 if you count Oi, and the 7 of them, 8 if you count Oi. Just fucking count Oi from the beginning. They did that like 25 times. It pissed me off.
Like, Oi has been a good boy since book, what, 2?
3.
3, yeah.
Just count him.
Yeah.
Well, the 5 of them, well, 6 if you count Oi.
You should have counted him for the second he saved Jake from the Clock King. Yeah.
The TikTok man.
Yeah, TikTok man.
I'm gonna hit you for every piece of your spine you still have left, you son of a bitch.
All right, Hef.
Oh, man. My King of Book 7 is also the time loop, because I generally hate time loops or time paradoxes, anything like that. Like, I just feel like a lot of them have been done to death. This one just worked. I don't know what to tell you. Like, it just, I think what makes this time loop work is there are so many times in the book we were reading it that we would have periods where Jake or Eddie or Susanna would just do this random thing to be like, I feel like I've done this before. Like, there were just so many, there was so much setup for it. And he told us over and over and over what it was. So, you know, you can argue, I think, that the time loop is an overdone prospect. You can argue that just about anything. But what you can argue with is he fucking told us.
Yeah, he did.
I mean, that's this whole thing. Like, he told us, gave us clues the entire time.
Yeah, he did.
It honestly makes it feel more planned.
Yes.
Yeah. Even though I had like some low points in the series, eventually I think I will go back and reread them, and I think this may be one that gets better with rereads.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. In a way, it'll feel like a different adventure too, because we know about the time loop. So, like, in a way, us rereading it will make it so that we pay attention to more extra stuff, and it'll feel like if.
Go ahead.
It'll feel like kind of like you're seeing another piece of a different kind of adventure. Like, yes, it's going to end the same way, but that's kind of the point. But you're going to notice more, and maybe that's kind of what the point is for Roland. We're running around with Roland, and the more we pay attention, maybe we get to a better ending at the end of the book.
And we get to count how many times that he could have used Cuthbert's horn.
Yes. My Koontz... my Koontz are the villains. I think every single one of them were terrible, and we deserve so much better.
Alrighty, and then Daniel, you're king, and for this one I'll make it hard, and we'll all three do our kings, and then we'll do our Koontzes. No, let's end on a positive note. Yeah, let's do it reverse. Okay, Daniel, what's your Koontz for the Dark Tower series overall?
The villains, because they are retroactively made worse over time.
F.
My Koontz for as long as this book series is, there are entirely too many points where I just didn't give a fuck about the fact that I was reading these books. And I hate that it took until book 5 for me to get really on board with the series, because I don't want to tell somebody that. When should I read Dark Tower? Yeah, well, it really gets good around book 5. Like, who the fuck wants to hear that?
Somebody tells me, watch this show, it gets really good in season 4. Like, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's like, to me, that's what I would describe to somebody as this book series, because to me, it doesn't really get good until 5.
My Koontz overall for this series, I think I'm also going to say the villains. I think what this series is lacking is a strong antagonist who kind of shows up throughout the whole thing. I think it starts really hard with Randall Flagg. Mm-hmm. I think Randall Flagg's best book in this entire series is The Gunslinger.
Yes.
And then it just kind of fails. Like, he comes back in Wizard and Glass, and then do you see him at all in 5 and 6?
I don't think so.
No.
I think he's alluded to, like, he's talked.
It's like yeah, they talk about it, but he himself does not make an actual appearance.
Was it also weird that whenever we got Flagg in this book, he finally starts going over his backstory, and he's like, yeah, I got raped when I ran away from home. That was weird.
Yeah.
And it was just such a throwaway comment, too.
Yeah, but that felt very Stephen King to me. Just because everybody gets raped.
Yeah.
He shows up at the end of the Wastelands. That's the one. He shows up at the Wizard of Oz place.
Oh, no, that's the 4th one. Because at the end of the Wastelands is where we have the cliffhanger.
Oh, with the train.
With the train.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. But I think just like beefing up, it didn't even have to be a lot. Like, I like him being underused, but just like making him a little bit more the central protagonist and easing back, like not having what happened with the Crimson King and just kind of making Randall Flagg the main villain. We just needed a villain who was at least 50% as well as developed as Roland and Eddie and Susanna and Jake.
I think we needed a presence. Like, we just needed something to be driven towards other than just the tower. Like,
yeah,
what was stopping them from going to the tower? Well, for the most part, nothing.
They show up every episode. Just like,
yeah.
Give me your oi. We're here to steal oi. Okay, Daniel, what is your king for overall for the Dark Tower series?
Also the time loop, because it makes some of the parts retroactively better.
Yeah.
And it makes a lot of the theming a lot more like understandable. And it makes the world, some of the things that happen in the world make a little bit more sense.
Mm-hmm.
And just like Hef said, like the feelings of deja vu, and it makes me feel like, oh, this was actually his plan, as opposed to something random, which is how it had been described to me.
Yeah, it's not random. Hef.
I'm gonna say my king is the ending of this book. Is like, I guess the time loop is also my king for it, because I think it makes the rereading of this series very, very high, because now you're gonna go back and you're gonna look for all this stuff. Like, it does nothing but it does nothing but increase the readership value.
Yeah, I think I have 2 kings for the series overall, a lesser and a higher. I think my cat just fell.
Oh my god!
fine. He's fine.
That's way more cartoony in my head. I'm sorry. It's
I
like
think
from
that-
Cat from Jungle to Jungle. Go,
Micu, damn you!
go! There's a mouse. Go get it.
I think the language, just the "you've forgotten the face of your father," say thank you, the long days and pleasant nights, and may you have twice the number. Just like all the isms. I think
Like the autisms?
the sayings,
Oh, okay.
like the high speech. I think that's going to be probably the thing that is going to stick with me the longest from these series. Sigh, like I have said sigh, like, "Sigh, Emma, will you please take out the garbage?" It's just like, what?
Hasn't been banned yet. That's why it's his favorite.
I really enjoy these, but I think like what actually is the most significant portion of this is the idea of ka-tet and the actual ka-tet. That Roland, Eddie, Susanna, Jake, Callahan, and Oi, they're not as important to me as, say, like the Losers Club, but over these past seven plus books, they have grown important to me, and I do love them all individually, and I love them even more as a group. And I meant to say this under Susanna, and I forgot, but it really was important to me that Oi aside, Roland and Susanna were the last two members, because there's so much development of Roland and Jake's relationship, and Roland and Eddie's relationship, and Susanna and Eddie's relationship. This is where you get like some of your best interactions in relationship building, but specifically between Roland and Susanna. And I thought that was really great, and a really great way to kind of end the group. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, let's go to rankings, and of course I have to ask, have you read The Little Sisters of Allure?
I did.
Yeah. I'm both happy and super upset.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I
so-
read it. I'm still upset.
Okay, I'm sending you the Google Doc link so you can see your list.
All right. Am I first? Is that why I'm pulling this up?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't remember, but go ahead.
Okay, hold on.
And I'll let you go ahead and move Little Sisters of Allure.
Oh, I get to edit it?
You should be able to.
Okay. Let's see here. How about I just do this instead? The link's taking me to a read-only one. I think I can just hop in and... Give me a second.
Yep.
Do-do-do-do.
I'm just waiting for like Russell or Matt to hop on this call and just bomb the shit out of us. What's the top 3 worst things that Russell could jump in and say?
It's all political. Ooh, shared. There we go. And here, and here. There. Okay. Time to remove the Sisters of Ilaria. Well, move it, I guess. Technically.
So meta. He's just like Stephen King.
He's editing the words. The story is alive. It's like the never-ending story.
Mm-hmm.
You, Jack Black. What's your favorite Jack Black movie? Never-ending story 3.
I put it at number 24 for Little Sisters of Eloria, not the Dark Tower.
Below Battle Royale and above No Beast So Fierce.
Indeed.
And the Dark Tower.
The Dark Tower goes. It actually goes below the Song of Susanna.
The Dark Tower, numbnuts.
Dark of the Tower.
Dark Tower, comma the. Fick you too. Isn't Fick the protagonist of A Bug's Life? No, that's Flick. Sorry. Okay.
I'm leaving it like that. Yeah. I enjoyed a lot of the 7th book. I think I like the 5th one is still, I think, hands down the best one.
Yeah, I agree. I think Wolves with Call is the best. Okay. Let me actually look and see. So actually, you were first, and then Daniel, and then me. Okay, so Daniel, I'm going to be a little presumptive and give you the top 30 books of your list. Here's you have Wolves that Call it 26, and then Song of Susanna drawing 3. I think that's the highest one. So
yeah, it's probably going to be in that range.
You have all of the Dark Tower book like in a row, except for Attack of the Mutant. Just throw it.
Yeah, it's better than the Gunslinger.
I mean, it is, but it speaks to me on a cultural level.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna put it in between Wolves of Kala and Song of Susanna.
Second favorite.
Yeah, I think what this book does right, it does really right, but also what it does wrong, it does really wrong.
Yeah.
And I just think that the stuff it does right, I like more overall than some of the other ones. It also makes me like some of the previous books a little bit more, which is...
I think it'll be better overall on a reread. I think these seem to be very rereadable to me. Not because of their length necessarily, just because of the nature of the story.
Yeah. Wolves of Kala still comes off to me as kind of peak the series.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, but I'm such a 7 Samurai nerd. Like,
yeah, you do a 7th Samurai, Last Stand, Let's Help the Bill, that kind of story.
Yeah.
And it's also done so well.
Yeah. I put it in number 10, below Wizard and Glass and above The Exorcist, and I think it's my 3rd favorite. I definitely understand why you guys put it above Wizard and Glass, but I just really... Sometimes I get caught up in those teenage romances, and they just kind of speak to me, and I really like Cuthbert. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
No shame, my guy. We like what we like.
No shame. I started making a list of like all the for Zombie Day. I started making a list of like stuff, and I just kind of fucking gave up. So, just shouting out. I thought it was funny that the robot's name was Stuttering Bill, which is an obvious It reference to Bill Dimmer.
I also thought that was kind of funny.
One too.
Yeah, somebody said M-O-O-N.
I wrote it down at the time, but now I can't remember what it was.
I remember it. Was it Shimi who said it?
It might have been.
Yeah.
Because I vaguely remember that as well.
Damn it.
Okay. All right.
References.
Going to homework. If you were Patrick
Starfish?
Danville.
Oh, okay.
But, and you have his ability. However, you have whatever your actual drawing artistic ability is. What would you draw?
A stick figure with really big tits.
Okay. I would just trace money. Just put it under a thin sheet of white paper and just trace it. Make it come to fruition. F. That's like.
I said I would draw blood because of how bad my art is.
Oh. Okay. For further reading, I just Lord of the Rings. It's just this, but better. So if you like this, read Lord of the Rings, you'll probably like it more. Just unless you're all about the guns, then there's no guns. But other than that,
If the time loop's your favorite part, read Higurashi.
There's no guns. Have you kidding? Have you seen Aragorn? Dude's nothing but rocket launchers on both sides.
he's only got 2 guns. They're big. They're big guns.
Does that make Gimli a short rifle?
Makes him a mortar.
Yeah,
I mean, he does get lobbed, so. No, totally off. Okay. And I meant, so this is a new section that I meant to do at the end of Ender's game, but we kind of got rushed through the end of that because I had to go do parent stuff. But I just thought, we all have more time now because we're doing less things for the podcast. So what other things have you guys been reading in the past month?
I am currently reading a book on the ancient histories and traditions of Korea.
Cool.
The 5th book in the Ring series.
Nice.
And Superman comics.
Nice.
Which apparently there's someone for me to talk about with.
I actually I guess the short version is the last couple of months, like, I actually got super overwhelmed with content creation. Like, I had to dial back what I'm doing on YouTube quite a bit just because of work for the most part, and I was getting pretty burnt out. I'm not gonna lie.
I also stopped. I haven't done anything in a month.
I'm still doing one video a week. I plan to get back to doing something at some point, but for right now, my workload, like actually in my career-based work, is making it so I don't really have a lot of time at home. And I just really don't want to burn myself out. I still want to do stuff.
I think one video a week is completely acceptable, and honestly, probably better than putting out 2 less good videos.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. But in addition to the time that I'm gaining, I'm currently reading Stephen King's, I don't know what they're called. They're like, it's a trilogy, but they're like crime novels. There's Mr. Mercedes, and then I think it's Finders Keepers, and then End of Watch. I'm a little over halfway through the first one, and I really like it. I like detective novels though. Like, I like it feels kind of gritty, noir kind of stuff is my jam. My wife also got me. Yeah, my wife also got me. I lost it years ago when we moved and never got it back. But my wife very recently got me for Christmas a copy of Watchmen, the graphic novel, and I started reading that last night. I'd read it years ago, but I feel like 10 years ago probably. So I've started that up again.
Cool. Good.
I'm super excited because, so good things are being read, and then of course we've got Lord of the Rings coming up, so that's my daily driver as far as a story.
I read one Tolkien biography. Let me just get the name to shout it out because it was very good. I'll do that on our Lord of the Rings episode. But I started a second one, which is actually like, it's less of a biography and it's more of a like a mini biography on Tolkien and C.S. Lewis, and explaining how the World War I affected both of them as writers. And the guy, I didn't know this when I got it, but the guy who wrote it is like an ultra conservative, like ultra fundamentalist Christian. And like, I'm trying to make my way through it to like expose myself to like other points of view and other ideas. But this guy is kind of a jackass. And it's really hard. And like, Tolkien was absolutely a conservative. And, but of course, like a conservative in 1914 isn't the same as a conservative in 2020. Maybe in like general philosophy, they're the same, but in terms of issues, they're absolutely not the same. And this guy, he wrote this book in 2015, and I don't know that he is a Trumper or isn't a Trumper, but he's of that ilk, and he's kind of putting those, like, that worldview, like, on Tolkien and Lewis, and it's really, really hard for me to read.
Wasn't Tolkien, like, notoriously like, no, there's no message, it's a battle ring?
Yes.
Yeah, I just finished Fellowship, and there's a quote from him at the end of it where he's like, yeah, this isn't about anything. I wanted to write a story.
He said that at the beginning. Because I just started that too. Like, he does it in the foreword.
Yeah, it's in the foreword of the Fellowship.
The one I had put at the end for some reason.
Oh, I got the Andy Serkis version. I'm super ready.
So he goes on like this huge. So he opens it by talking about how talking about how Tolkien was a conservative, and talking about the myth of progress, and how Tolkien was anti-technology, and like,
I don't want AI to write my hobbits.
Yeah, except he's focusing on like, Tolkien didn't even like refrigerators. He didn't want his food refrigerated. And I'm like, okay, sure, maybe this is true, but is this something you need to focus on to even like explain to us the fact that he just didn't like technology? He liked simple country life. He didn't want little English villages being demolished to build highways and corporate office buildings. Like,
Ryan, he didn't like the cold. That's why they went through the mines.
Yeah, that's why. It's not because it would have been the death of the hobbits. Okay. I've also read a bunch of Star Wars, but I don't need to go into all that.
What's your favorite one
My favorite Star Wars?
that you've recently?
Holy fuck, wait, whoa. Before you answer that one, what is your favorite Star Wars, period? Overall.
The original.
Like the original movie?
Yeah.
Okay. I was not expecting that answer.
What were you expecting?
I guess I was expecting more of a traditional answer like Empire.
That's my favorite.
No, I actually, as a kid, I skipped Empire a lot.
I get why.
I meant to tell you this, Ryan. I've recently had a friend watch Star Wars for the first time ever.
Wow.
She did not know that Vader was Luke's father.
What? No.
100% didn't know.
She's a liar.
I can prove it.
Okay.
100% didn't know that Luke and Leia were brother and sister.
That's a little more.
Yeah, see, that one I could feel like skipping over it, but like not. No.
She sent me this message going, "Is this why you told me to watch them in this order?" I was like, well, I just thought maybe if you did the good ones first, you might not bother.
No, I love Empire, but it's just not as. Okay, so my favorite scene in movie history is Battle of Yavin and the dogfight at the end of the original Star Wars movie. And Return of the Jedi does the same thing but bigger, and there's no dogfight in Empire Strikes Back. And I think that's one of the reasons I didn't like it as much as a kid. I definitely appreciate it for all the cinematic reasons why it's brilliant, and it's probably the third favorite movie of all time, but
Return of the Jedi
is my second favorite. Yeah. I think it has flipped a little bit though. As a kid, I always said that Return of the Jedi was my favorite, but now I think that I'm older, I think Star Wars is my favorite. As a kid, I remember my list, and I ranked Phantom Menace above The Empire Strikes Back as a kid. Say something nice about Jar Jar Binks and kiss him on his 17 dicks.
I did think
And He's actually a Sith Lord now, thanks to Lego Star Wars Rebuild the Universe. He's one of the Sith Lords in that show.
Fun fact,
along with Rey and Rose. And, go ahead.
It's fun. Of the original, like not of the second trilogy, like 1 through 3.
Prequel.
Yeah, the prequel trilogy. I think Phantom Menace might be my favorite of the 3.
Wow, pretty cool.
I think, in terms of nostalgia, writing Revenge of the Sith is the best.
I enjoyed what we did with Revenge of the Sith. Like the memory of going and just being absolute
At midnight.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Like, as far as a movie going experience, like Revenge of the Sith holds like #1 status as probably my favorite movie going experience. But like, if you're talking about one I would turn on just to watch for shits and giggles, it's Phantom Menace.
Well, I agree with you in a certain aspect. The Phantom Menace is the one that has aged the best, and that's because it uses the least green screen and the most practical effects.
Mm-hmm.
Visually, like at some point, like put on Revenge of the Sith for 20 minutes, and it's one of my all-time favorite movies. But visually, it doesn't look very good anymore. There are parts that are like, dare I say, even cringy.
I agree.
Like, because the entire movie was filmed in front of green screen, and it just computer graphics effects look cool at the time, but they don't age well. And Phantom Menace has way more practical effects, not than the original trilogy, but then Attack of the Clones. Like, watching them from modern, watching them now, Phantom Menace looks best. Attack of the Clones looks better than Revenge of the Sith, and Revenge of the Sith looks the worst. They increasingly used more green screens and CG as it went.
100%. I still had some puppets in Phantom Menace. But Yoda's a puppet. Watto's a puppet, and a lot of the background guys are all puppets. Yeah, it feels the most like a vintage Star Wars film.
Better. Yeah. Jar Jar looks better than a lot of the stuff in the later ones because it's not filled with that. Like Jar Jar
looks better than any of the clones in the Master.
Yeah, that's
that was fun.
This is correct. Dark side stuff.
George Lucas, where's our special edition of prequels where you clean up the CG in episode 2 and 3? Well, you can't do that because you sold it. That's fine. It's fine.
Telling Disney they weren't allowed to change them.
Yeah. But now we have Jude Law in Star Wars, so I think it's an even trade. Upcoming, our timeline is getting shifted around a little bit because Daniel didn't watch the Dark Tower movie, but we will be doing an upcoming episode on the Dark Tower movie.
Forgot.
And we will also talk about the Amazon Dark Tower TV series during that movie episode.
I would have. That was my bad.
It's okay. It's okay. It's only 90 minutes long.
Yeah, that's short.
It's really short.
I could have watched that while we were.
I think it's 93 minutes.
Yeah, it's not very long.
And then for our next 3 books in January, February, and March, we will be doing The Fellowship of the Ring, The Two Towers, and The Return of the King.
The Two Towers is short.
Yeah, it's not that long.
Yeah. I just downloaded it. It was only like 16.
None of them are as long as I thought they would be.
They're not long, but they are very dense.
I think they were long for the time.
Yeah, for like a modern novel, yeah.
Books have gotten increasingly long. I've watched entire videos about it. People always want to feel like they're getting their money's worth.
That's fair.
It's video games are suffering the same problem where they're being given padding because people equate it like time spent with money.
Well, I was pissed when I played Force Unleashed 2 and beat it in less than 5 hours after spending $60 on it.
I do think it should have been at least as long as
Yeah.
Anyway, sidetracks.
So check those out. And if you haven't and you want to throw some money at Tolkien, if you haven't seen War of the Rohirrim yet, definitely go and do that.
I was going to take you.
You can still do that if you want. I'll see it again.
Yeah.
But if
I got sick.
But I would also love to go and see World Hero with some other special people.
Our patron.
Our patrons. Thank you to Logan the second. Logan.
Metal.
Full metal.
Filled with metal.
Super metal. And Sierra the sixth.
Keyblade.
The Keyblade patron. Now, have you do it again, but this time I want it done better.
Okay. What's a Keyblade sound like? So it sounds like those tubes you beat your brother with at Christmas?
Yeah. Like a pool noodle almost.
Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, it's like I'm really trapped in Traverse Town. And thank you for Horsemen Comics and Gaming, which you can visit at the Morgantown Mall in Virginia, the mall in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. You can shop on at forhorsemen.tcgplay.com. If you make it in the store, say hello to Ronald the Third Krampus Christmas, which I made it into the store today. And I did say hello to Ronald the Third Krampus of Christmas, and I pitched him the best idea he's going to have all year, and he said no. I said,
oh, wait.
For your big...
That's the year's only like 2 more days. What is it?
Oh, I guarantee this was the best idea he heard. For his big events, when there are like bunches of people in the store, they only have one bathroom, and that bathroom only has one toilet. So single use, and the mall bathrooms are a couple minutes away. Like you can use them, but you have to walk.
You gotta track, yeah.
So buy a blue porta-john, put it out back of the store, paint it to look one of those like one of those British police boxes called the Turtles.
That's actually pretty good. You know, getting paid ones too, so we could even make money off of it.
Like Dale's?
Yeah.
Yeah. Whoa! So you gave me that Dale Gribble T-shirt a while ago. That didn't fit me very well, and I found it recently, so I gave it to Drake as a pajama shirt.
Yeah.
It is his favorite shirt. He was like, look, Dale! It's Dale! Dale's on my shirt! Yeah, and whenever Beck is like agitated with him, he always says, I drive you crazy, mommy, like Peggy Hill. Beck hates Peggy so much. All right, we're going long. All right, thank you guys for reading not only The Dark Tower, but The Dark Tower and recording with me.
And what an adventure.
There's no place like home. There's no place like home.
I think we made it to the full year, didn't we? Like, this officially marks the full year that we were reading it?
Yeah, we did like The Stand and Eyes of the Dragon in 2023, but like the core series, yes, we did all in 2024.
Nice.
Yeah. So congrats to us. And I just want to say thank you to you guys. Thank you to our patrons. Stay tuned for our socials. And Stephen King fled across the desert, and the horror of Babylon followed. Stay scary.
Stay scary, everybody.
Stay scary, folks.
And now for the obligatory socials. Please like, share, and subscribe. You can find the podcast on Twitter at HorrorPod69. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Slasher, and Goodreads. Become part of the Disturbed community by asking for the Facebook group and Discord links. Send dick pics to the Horror of Babylon podcast at gmail.com. Support the show at patreon.com/the Horror of Babylon. In closing, you can let your friends know that The Horror of Babylon is available on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, and all other major podcast apps. Stay scary.